In the summer of 1776, armed men came for New Jersey's royal governor. They were not British soldiers. They were his fellow colonists. The governor was William Franklin. His offense was simple. While rebellion spread around him, he remained loyal to the king. But William was not just another Loyalist official. His father was Benjamin Franklin, one of the most famous revolutionaries in America. Before America defeated the British Empire, it fought a quieter, crueler war, one that turned fathers against sons and neighbors against neighbors. We remember the American Revolution as a united uprising, 13 colonies standing together, declaring liberty and driving a foreign army from their shores. Paintings made it look inevitable, school books made it look united, but the people living through it saw no clear ending and no single America. Some colonists wanted independence, others wanted reform within the British Empire. Many wanted only to protect their homes, their businesses, and their families from a war they never asked for. Loyalists were not all wealthy officials. They included farmers, laborers, merchants, recent immigrants, ministers, and people who feared revolution more than monarchy. The dividing line did not run neatly between two armies. It passed through kitchens, churches, workshops, town meetings, and family tables. And few families were divided more dramatically than the Franklins. Long before politics separated them, Benjamin and William Franklin were close. They traveled together, exchanged ideas, and shared the ambitions of a rising family. Benjamin built his reputation through printing, science, diplomacy, and politics. William followed another path: law, public service, and advancement within the British Empire. In 1763, William became the royal governor of New Jersey. The appointment gave him status, security, and a future tied closely to the crown. At first, father and son still belonged to the same world. Both were proud Britons. Both believed the empire could serve America. Then came new taxes, political confrontations, and blood in the streets. Benjamin gradually lost faith in British rule. William did not. To Benjamin, resistance became a defense of liberty. To William, rebellion threatened law, order, and the society he had sworn to govern. Their letters grew colder. Every political argument carried the weight of an older bond neither man was willing to surrender or able to repair. When revolutionaries arrested William, the disagreement became a prison wall. The father helped create a nation. The son became its enemy. What happened to the Franklins happened in smaller ways across the colonies. Politics entered ordinary homes and demanded an answer. Which side are you on? In some towns, revolutionary committees watched suspected loyalists, inspected correspondence, and demanded public oaths to the new state governments. Refusing could mean arrest, exile, or confiscation. A man's opinion could cost him his farm. A rumor could end a family's safety. Loyalists also used intimidation where British power was strong. Both sides demanded obedience, and both could punish people who would not provide it. Neutrality sounded reasonable from a distance. Up close, it could look like cowardice, betrayal, or secret support for whichever army arrived next. Churches divided, businesses collapsed, old friendships became dangerous. Even silence could be interpreted as a political statement. And beneath the grand language of liberty, older grudges found new uniforms. Debts, land disputes, jealousies, and family rivalries suddenly became acts of war. The revolution did not create every hatred, but it gave private hatred a flag, a weapon, and permission to call itself patriotism. Nowhere was this more brutal than the southern backcountry, where patriot and loyalist militias fought across farms, forests, and isolated settlements. These were often not strangers meeting in battle. They spoke the same accents, they knew the same roads, and sometimes, through the smoke, they recognized the faces standing opposite them. A British uniform was not required. a strip of cloth, a local commander, and declared loyalty could turn an ordinary civilian into a target. Raids came before dawn. Men were dragged from their beds. Horses, food, and weapons disappeared. By sunrise, another family had chosen a side or lost one. Retaliation followed retaliation. A burned barn demanded another burning. A captured brother demanded a prisoner. Grief became strategy. At Kings Mountain, nearly every fighter was American. The battle became one of the clearest examples of colonists killing other colonists. Victory did not always end with surrender. In a war fueled by memory and revenge, mercy could feel like weakness. Away from famous battlefields, irregular bands robbed travelers, kidnapped enemies, and settled personal scores beneath the labels Patriot and Loyalist. Civilians learned to hide food beneath their floors, sleep in the woods, and listen for hoofbeats before deciding which flag they supported that night. The battlefield was not somewhere beyond the horizon. It was the road outside, the field behind the house, the man next door. This was independence at its most intimate, not simply redcoats against an American people, but communities breaking apart from the inside. Yet this picture is incomplete. Millions of people in the colonies were denied the freedom both armies claimed to defend. Patriot speeches compared British rule to slavery. For enslaved Americans hearing those words, the incompatibility was impossible to miss. In November 1775, Virginia's royal governor, Lord Dunmore, offered freedom to enslaved men owned by rebels if they escaped and served the crown. The offer was limited, calculated, and born from war, not equality. But to someone living in bondage, even a dangerous opening could look like a road. Men, women, and children fled toward British lines. Some left in darkness without knowing whether freedom, disease, capture, or death waited ahead. People enslaved at George Washington's Mount Vernon were among those who escaped. The commander of liberty could not keep freedom from reaching his own estate. Black men also served the patriot cause, hoping military service might earn liberty, wages, belonging, or a claim on the promises of the Revolution. There was no single black experience of the war. Families made choices under pressure, and different paths could separate people who wanted the same thing. For them, the question was not simply which government should rule America. It was whether America's language of freedom would ever include them. Beyond the colonial settlements, native nations faced another version of the same impossible choice, though this war had begun on lands already taken from them. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy had united 6 nations under a political alliance older than the United States. The Revolution placed that alliance under extraordinary strain. British officials asked for warriors. American agents asked for neutrality or support. Each promise carried danger, and neither side could guarantee land. Many Mohawk, Seneca, Cayuga, and Onondaga people aligned with Britain. Many Oneida and Tuscarora people supported the Americans. The Longhouse divided. The decision split relatives, trading partners, and communities. People who had shared councils and ceremonies could now meet one another as enemies. Raids struck frontier settlements. Retaliation followed. In 1779, an American campaign burned dozens of Haudenosaunee towns and destroyed stored food and crops. Families fled toward British-held territory as winter approached. Hunger became a weapon, and the cost of the Revolution continued long after the soldiers moved on. The United States would remember native allies when useful and forget native sovereignty when land was wanted. Victory did not restore the broken Longhouse. In 1781, the British Army surrendered at Yorktown. Bells rang, crowds celebrated, and the Revolution entered memory as a national triumph. But for Loyalists, the end of the fighting did not feel like peace. It felt like the moment their country ceased to exist. Some stayed and rebuilt quietly. Others faced hostility,
damaged reputations, lost property, or laws that made returning home difficult or impossible. Tens of thousands left the new United States for Canada, Britain, the Caribbean, and other corners of the empire they had defended. They carried household objects, legal papers, and memories of an America that no longer wanted them. Many believed they were refugees, not traitors. William Franklin eventually left for England. His father's revolution had succeeded, and the world that had made him governor was gone. Benjamin became a symbol of the new republic, celebrated in Philadelphia, honored in Europe, and remembered as the wise old face of independence. Father and son met again after the war, but the old closeness did not return. Some victories leave wounds that peace cannot negotiate.
Benjamin had helped create a country, yet inside his own family, the revolution ended without reunion, forgiveness, or shared version of the past. New nations need stories that hold people together. The United States needed heroes, common sacrifice, and a clean beginning after years of internal violence. So the conflict became Americans against Britain. Loyalists faded into the background, appearing as cowards, villains, or footnotes who had chosen the wrong future. The divided churches, confiscated farms, refugee ships, and private acts of revenge did not fit comfortably inside a national celebration. The choices of enslaved people did not fit a simple story of universal liberty. Neither did native nations fighting for survival. None of this makes independence meaningless. It makes the revolution human, uncertain, contradictory, courageous, frightened, generous, and cruel, sometimes within the same person. America was born from war against an empire, but it was also born from a civil war over belonging, power, loyalty, and the meaning of freedom. Return to that prison door in 1776. On one side stood William Franklin. On the other stood a revolution led by his father. Neither man could know what America would become. They knew only that choosing a country had forced them to lose each other. The revolution gave millions a new political future. It also left prisons, exiles, broken nations, and empty chairs behind its victory. History is never as simple as the side that wins.
Please subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos about history. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe.